I just wanted to show a little bit about something I've been working on. It's a book called Jim's Forgettable Face, and it's a kind of a story, poem, a rhyming, long enough story about a guy named Jim who has an extremely forgettable face. So because he has a forgettable face, I was trying to do this lots of different ways. I was trying to train the illustrations and the artwork and lots, and this was kind of almost like too clean or too fancy or too and I tried it in lots of different ways and thought about it for a long time, and ultimately came up with this idea that it might be more interesting and more fun and more appropriate if the story was drawn in a very kind of a style that seemed as though it didn't really care about what it looks like, because that's kind of the whole point of Jim's character, that his face is not, the aesthetic isn't important, but what he does is important in the story. But anyway, so here he is. This is Jim's forgettable face. It's just like it's a kind of an eye with lots of different colors. It's supposed to be a nose, but these were drawn quite loosely and just quite roughly. So he's saying here, "Now, Maura, could you describe what your husband looks like for the picture on the front of the book?" And she is, will come to me now in a minute. But even his wife can't really even create a mental image of him. You can see that is how forgettable he truly is. So the story starts like this. A great man named Jim, who had visited Mars in a spaceship he'd built up from broken down cars, could not become famous because of his face. And so I've kind of bordered this with just random shapes and some flowers there. Like I just thought it was again, it's kind of, I quite like the maybe the reference to like maybe fancier books, or even Book of Kells, or illustrated books with, like, where you see like garlands of flowers and cherubs and just really gorgeous, very carefully created things. But this I've done a much kind of looser, very rough kind of style. So each page has an illustration or a drawing that goes with it. That's helps the story a little bit. I'm just going to hope it does. So this is the planet Mars over here. This is Jim in his spaceship made out of lots of broken down cars. And this is a Martian who is kind of maybe a student Martian who's thumbing a lift back to Mars. And he has an I Want to Believe t-shirt on, which I thought was amusing. Oh, Jesus. Now, so the next bit is a face. This is a description of Jim's face. A face more hard to describe than a million-mile race of slugs versus sloths versus something else slow, where you're not even sure if the starters yelled go, because the race, like Jim's face, is completely unmoving. And to go along with that, then we have a drawing of what a million-mile race might look like. And it's been going on now for that many seconds, which is a long time. It's still on lap number 1. In fact, they haven't even left the starting line yet. The sloth is asleep. The slug is they're not moving, and they're racing against a turnip. And so that's a race that could just go on forever. That is how undescribable Jim is. That is the extent of his undescribability and his ordinariness. But there's this little man there selling some slug hats. The guy in a slug hat wearing taking a selfie, and some guys with an Irish flag going ole ole ole. And I like that they're still quite enthusiastic, even though the race has been going on for that long without anything happening. Then this kind of happened, but I quite liked it. I like sometimes when, as you're doing something, just something surprising kind of so I thought this was kind of contrasted a little bit with the way the story is generally being approached, in that this is only one line, but to spread it out over 2 pages, I thought it was kind of overblown compared to the the ordinariness of everything else, but I quite liked it anyway. So, and if that's the point, well, then this is the proving. So this is the proof that Jim's face is extremely ordinary. And there's a couple of, I'm not sure what those creatures are. Maybe they're cat. I don't. This is probably them. I like. Anyway, never mind. Let me see. So this is the proving. When ere at a party Jim was introduced, some moments would pass till he'd think, what's the use of saying hello, when just 5 minutes later the person he'd met would ask, are you the waiter? So with a lot of these kind of pages, these borders are just kind of whatever is kind of zipping its way out of my unconscious. I'm not thinking about these things too much. I suppose this references a party, maybe lots of people. Yes, so I don't necessarily have a utter complete rationale for why everything looks the way it looks on that page, but then this page is more of a simple joke. So this is Jim here. You never get to see Jim's face in the story. It's always either hidden or obscured in some way. And this is a person at a party saying, I'd like to order a veggie burger with a side plate of beans. And he's saying, but I'm not the waiter. We're on a date. So there you go now. I'll show you one more bit. So this is just, it refers to the next bit of writing, which I shan't trouble you with at this point in our lives. She is speaking here to a thought. This is Jim in her, or speaking rather to a memory. This is Jim in her memory saying, "You seriously remember nothing?" So you can see all of Jim except his face is. She cannot remember what his eyes, nose, or mouth. She can remember no details. She does remember that he has a head, but that's about it. She's saying, "No, I can recall every detail of every interaction we have ever had, except for what you look like." And so that's just a thing. So you might have noticed that that this is actually the same person who's Mora, who must end up marrying Jim in the end. It's not important in the story. It's not really a feature, but I just thought sometimes like just put on a little. That's anyway. That's hopefully something you'll enjoy having watched there for yourself. Bye.